This is the kind of stuff that I would expect out of TVA Sports. Not really TSN 690 in Montreal. Because yesterday, you had yourselves a post made by the folks over on the TSN 690 Facebook page asking a very simple question. Habs fans, how would you feel about the Canadiens de Montreal trading Cole Caufield to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Mitch Marner and their first-round pick in 2025? And if you are an avid user of Facebook, as I used to be back in the day, you'll see that the 2002 responses on this post are diversified in a pretty interesting way. 1,200 of the responses are replying with the ha-ha emoji, 500 of these responses respond with the angry emoji, and then 500 others are replying with the thumbs up. A lot of Canadiens fans who are interacting with this post, because obviously it's 690 Montreal, are livid. TSN 690? What the hell is this? Now, if you go over to the trade, if you want to analyze this, break it down, as we kind of have done with a few other Marner ideas in the past little while here, this one's interesting because it's not just, Marner for whatever, Marner for this, Marner for that, Marner. It is Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs' first-round pick from this year's draft, which, as it stands right now on Tankathon, would be 23rd overall. That is interesting. Not saying I'd do it, not saying Cole Caufield is going anywhere, but that is interesting. If you wanted to go over the hypothetical scenario of what a Marner-led Montreal Canadiens team could look like, sure, this is a player that will have the highest cap hit on the team. It's not even going to be close. But this is a player who will add an interesting dynamic of playmaking to the top six. There's no doubt that Marner is a talented player. If he does go to Montreal, he might even be one of the top point scorers, if not the absolute first one. But a part of me kind of thinks, okay, if you have Suzuki and Marner on the same team, how exactly is that going to work? Both of these guys are right-handed forwards with shifty, puck-moving, playmaking abilities, and ultimately, I feel like Marner plays a game where if he's got a sniper to play with, he excels a lot. Like, okay, William Nylander can pot a bunch of goals. Austin Matthews can do that too. Even Cole Caufield, if you wanted to reverse the tides a little bit, he's very good at that. Nick Suzuki scores a lot of his goals by walking right in, firing it on goal. You don't really see him be the guy set up by many of these plays. So for Mitch Marner to be the setting up guy, it does kind of intrigue me as to what that dynamic would look like and whether or not it would actually work out with the Montreal Canadiens. Also, you could debate that the timeline might not really align with the Habs all too much here because Marner is a tad older than Nick Suzuki, but his contract is expiring next year, so he would be eligible for an extension, and as we've been talking about these entire past few videos over here, Marner is a guy who very well could get $11+ million a year on his next contract. If he wants to go shorter term, he could go that route and eventually work himself up to $13 million by the time 2027, 2028 rolls around. There's a lot of opportunity here for Marner to capitalize on whatever it is that he wants to get, because his entire strategy this whole time he's been a hockey player has been money. At least, that's what it looks like. But with the first-round pick as well, the Montreal Canadiens would get themselves 3 first-round picks in this draft. They have their own at 5th overall, they have the Winnipeg first and the 27th overall spot because of the Sean Monahan trade, and then they'd have 23rd overall because of this potential Marner trade. 3 first-round picks is a lot, and while it is certainly valuable, a part of me questions whether or not it would really help the Montreal Canadiens to get this done. Like, okay, great, more prospects, more waiting for the future, more younger guys that will have to fight each other out for spots. You know you're not going to draft any defensemen with your top picks because of all of the defensemen that already exist in the system. So you kind of have to go with forwards, but then again, does it really align the perspective of getting a first-round pick and adding on to your, you could even say, surplus of first-round picks in this year's draft, whilst acquiring an asset whose main value is going to be right now in Mitch Marner? It just doesn't really make sense to me. And I know a lot of people will attack this idea from the, sentimental point of view, hey, no, Marner is a Leaf. We don't want any Leafs over here. Marner is that guy. He's got that reputation. He doesn't show up in the playoffs. The Canadiens need guys who could do that. Marner also was like a secret Montreal Canadiens undercover agent in the playoff run a few years ago because he chucked the puck over the glass. No, we don't want that guy on our team. Get him out of here. And while there is value to that idea, I do think there is a lot of value in just acknowledging that it doesn't really work. If you think about what the team benefits out of this trade. I mean, Marner in a first is great, but it just doesn't really fit, I feel, what the Canadiens are trying to build here. And to even suggest Cole Caufield being the piece to go the other way seems like pure heresy. I mean, it would make sense for Toronto because they are getting younger, they are getting cheaper, and Caufield is signed on for a much longer time, so it would be very beneficial for the Maple Leafs to gather these assets that have themselves the staying power, rather than guys that could very well just up and away leave by this time next year. Also, underrated note, Cole Caufield's brother Brock is indeed a member of the Leafs organization, so there is already a connection that could make a little bit of sense here, and of course, you know, the NTDP vibes, Matthews, Caufield. It's a pretty good connection there. Not saying they're the best of friends, but it is nice to see. You're seeing Caufield actually suit up with Trevor Zegras right now for Team USA. We're going to see a game later today, I'm pretty sure, and that's going to be a great opportunity to see what next year has in store because Trevor Zegras is going over to the Habs. Nope, just kidding. Yeah, scratch that. But Cole Caufield, for all the love that this guy has had with the fans, with the organization, the fact that they believed in him at the 15th overall spot. Again, it was Bergevin, it was not Kent Hughes. But with the way Caufield has grown as a Montreal Canadien, how he has developed these relationships with Suzuki and Slafkovsky, and how everybody just has this infectious adoration towards Caufield, there is not a world where I see the Montreal Canadiens even considering the trade with his name involved. Unless it's Connor McDavid or Connor Bedard coming back the other way, Cole Caufield is a Montreal Canadien. And I was very high on this guy when he was initially drafted in the 15th overall spot. I think everybody was, to be fair. He only went that late because he's only 5'7", but from the very beginning, this was an underdog story that has built itself up into the potential 40-goal, 80-point guy that Cole Caufield is right now for the Canadiens. His best days are yet to come. Realistically, if Cole Caufield ends up outproducing Mitch Marner over the next 5 years or so, I don't even think that's too hot of a take. Like, it would totally be plausible here, especially if Marner goes from a team like Toronto to some other team that doesn't have the star power like Matthews and Tavares and Nylander, like, let's say, Utah, for example. Marner could very well fall off in point production after he gets a new contract extension with a brand new team that's willing to bite the bullet and give him as much money as he wants because they want a star player of his caliber to stick around. Meanwhile, Caufield could just be getting better. So to TSN 690, y'all on the Facebook page trying to stir up some controversy, sure, I'll give you your props. You did your job. I'm making a video about y'all, and I'm talking about this idea, but at the same time, it's kind of because there isn't really anything else to talk about with the Canadiens, unless you want to go over World Championship stuff, that in which I don't want to do because it hasn't happened yet. Like, you know, how many minutes can we talk about Yaroslav Komsky and Trevor Zegras giving each other a hug outside of a practice? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan or a Montreal Canadiens fan about this idea, Cole Caufield for Marner and a first. Crazy, crazy stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.